Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington. I'm Gail Curran, and I'm pleased to serve on the Board of Trustees. You are welcome here in person or virtually, no matter whom you love, no matter your identity, beliefs, abilities, heritage, or background. We hope that you will find what you are looking for here in our church community. It seems appropriate that with our theme of history this month, that someone with a long history at UUCA is welcoming you today. I had been searching for a church community when I met my soon-to-be husband in 1980. We started coming to church together, and I realized that I had found my church community. I became a member in 1981. That is 40 years ago. Seems amazing. Chuck and I were married in this sanctuary in 1982, so this place has always been special for me, and I'm so glad that we can be back in this space. I hope that you have found or will find a church home here as well, a place where you can build your own history and memories. Please join us after the service for conversation and connection on the ramp outside the building. There will be a virtual coffee hour after the service for those who are watching online. However you are joining us today, we look forward to getting to know you better.
Gail, thank you so much for that warm welcome into our space this morning. Our call to worship is a poem by Rabindranath Tagore called The Peace of Autumn. Today, the peace of autumn pervades the world. In the radiant noon, silent and motionless, the wide stillness rests like a tired bird. Spreading over the deserted fields to all horizons its wings of golden green. Today, the thin thread of the river flows without song, leaving no mark on its sandy banks. The many distant villages bask in the sun with eyes closed in idle and languid slumber. In the stillness, I hear in every blade of grass, in every speck of dust, in every part of my own body, in the visible and invisible worlds, in the planets, the suns, and the stars, the joyous dance of the atoms through endless time. Here in the peace of autumn, let us worship together. This morning for our chalice lighting, UUCA member Niharika is our special guest and inviter into her tradition.
Thank you, Reverend Amanda. Good morning, everyone, and happy Diwali. I am Niharika Chiburjo, and I am an RE teacher here at UUCA. It is Diwali on any day that the soldier comes home, my mom would always say. When the soldier comes home in his uniform, standing upright, and is at our door, that is Diwali. I was born and raised in a military family, and this made perfect sense to us. When Dad came home, was the day it was Diwali. That's the day we lit lights. But the Festival of Lights is what we've heard it called, Deepavali, literally meaning a row of clay lamps, and shortened to Diwali, is a holiday celebrated mainly by Hindus to mark the homecoming of Lord Ram, his wife and brother, after 14 years in exile. I recently learned it's celebrated by at least 1 billion people around the world. We've seen homes lit up in our neighborhoods here in Northern Virginia, and many people in South Asia will light clay lamps, candles, and lights outside their homes to symbolize the inner light that protects us from spiritual darkness. And this is in tune with this holiday that is an ode to a triumph of good over evil. It's a time to gather with family and pray to the goddess Lakshmi for peace and prosperity. It's also a time that makes us acutely aware of the empty place at the table, of those who are not with us. So on this day, we remember, and in the words of Toni Morrison, we remember. In the spirit of Diwali, and as we light our chalice, I'd like to read a poem by Canadian Indian poet, author, and radio personality, a gentleman by the name of Harish Masant. I will first read a little bit in Hindi so you can get a flavor of the poem, and then I will read my translation in English. The poem is called Ek Diya, One Lamp. एक दिया ऐसा भी हो जो भीतर तक प्रकाश भरे, एक दिया नीरस जीवन में फिर आकार विश्वास भरे. May there be a lamp that lights us up deep within. May there be a lamp that allows hope to win. May there be a lamp simple like a monk's life. May there be a lamp magnificent like divine light. May there be a lamp that wipes out strife. May there be a lamp that reminds us after darkness there's always light. May there be a lamp for homes without light. May there be a lamp when we to have a home must fight. May there be a lamp for the brave at our borders. May there be a lamp for our strong justice warriors. May there be a lamp for those who have lost all faith. May there be a lamp for all the darkness we must brave. May there be a lamp that wipes out terror and evil. May there be a lamp that restores our will to live. May there be a lamp that lights us deep within. May there be a lamp that allows hope to win. Thank you.
May it be so indeed. Niharika, thank you for that chalice lighting this morning. Our music now appears on the screen from another member and friend of our UUCA community, Malatai.
हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मन विजय करे, दूसरों की जय से पहले खुद को जय करे. हमको मन की शक्ति देना, मन विजय करे, दूसरों की जय से पहले खुद को जय करे. हमको मन की शक्ति देना. भेदभाव अपने दिल से साफ कर सके, भेदभाव अपने दिल से साफ कर सके, दोस्तों से भूल हो तो माफ कर सके, झूठ से बचे रहें, सच का दम भरे, झूठ से बचे रहें, सच का दम भरें, दूसरों की जय से पहले खुद को जय करें, हमको मन की शक्ति देना। मुश्किलें पड़े तो हम पे इतना कर,
Our wisdom lesson this morning comes from a book titled The Memory Tree by Britta Teckentrup. There once was a fox who lived with all the other animals in the forest. Fox had lived a long and happy life, but now he was tired. Very slowly, Fox made his way to his favorite spot in the clearing. He looked at his beloved forest one more time and lay down. Fox closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and fell asleep forever. Everything around Fox was still and peaceful. Snow began to fall, gently covering him with a soft blanket.
Owl had watched Fox from the top of his tree. He flew down and landed next to his friend. Owl was very sad. He had known Fox for a long time, but Owl knew it was time for his friend to leave. One by one, Fox's friends came to that clearing. First squirrel and weasel, then bear, deer, and bird, and finally rabbit, mouse, and others came to sit by Fox. You see, Fox had been loved by everyone. He had been kind and caring, and no one could imagine life in the forest without Fox. The animals sat there together in silence for a very long time.
Owl was the first to speak. He smiled warmly and said, "I remember when Fox and I were very young. Every autumn we raced to see who could catch more falling leaves." The other animals remembered and smiled.
Mouse said softly, "I remember how much Fox loved the sunset. He always sat in this same exact spot." Together, the animals remembered. Many of them had joined Fox to watch that sun go down. It was such a happy memory, and their sad hearts filled with warmth.
Bear remembered how Fox had looked after her cubs one spring. Rabbit smiled when they told the story of how Fox had played tag with them in the tall grass. Squirrel talked about Fox helping him dig up buried nuts in the deep snow last winter. One by one, the animals remembered their favorite stories about Fox. Fox had touched the lives of all the animals in the forest with his warmth and kindness, and they all smiled, remembering.
While the animals talked, A little orange plant grew up out of the snow where Fox was lying. Small and delicate at first, and hardly noticeable, the plant grew, bigger, stronger, and more beautiful with each story that was told.
The animals talked about Fox all through the night. And in the morning, the little plant had grown into a small tree. The animals saw the tree and knew that Fox was still part of them.
During the next days and weeks and months, the animals remembered many, many more stories about Fox. Their heavy hearts began to feel lighter. The more they remembered, the more the tree grew, higher and higher and more beautiful. Soon it was the tallest tree in the forest, a tree made from memories and filled with love.
Fox's tree was big and strong enough to shelter all the animals. It was always buzzing with life. The birds built their nests among the leaves, and Owl raised his grand chicks on the branches. Squirrel found a cozy home in the trunk, and bear, deer, and rabbit slept in its shade. The tree gave strength to everyone who had loved Fox. And so, Fox lived on in their hearts forever.
The end.
Just as the animals had a need to remember Fox through their stories, we too have a need to hold the memories of those we have lost. I am so glad to be with you here in the sanctuary or at home on this Remembrance Sunday. Some of you have brought flowers, photographs, and objects. Perhaps you have a photograph or object close at hand. Later in our service, we'll have a time to light candles and share our care with each other. It is good to be together today.
Imagine, if you will, the voice of Lester Holt or Walter Cronkite. The great catastrophe of 1971 took place in Augusta, Georgia, at 2144 Hillsinger Road in a split-level rambler with a carport. It was an afternoon when Carol's mother's china fell under brokenness. Perhaps catastrophe is not quite the word. It was a seismic occurrence. In November 1971, on the third Thursday of the month, I dropped and shattered a china gravy boat. The dish pattern is now out of production. The design of my mother's china was Rose Amore. Right now, I have 3 sets of china in my house. Each was beloved. Each was beloved by a woman I loved. Each of those women have died. My mom, my grandmom, I miss them. The dishes they left me, well, wait, let's not call them dishes because there's so much more than dishes. The china now in my home in Maryland belonged to my mother and my grandmother. The saucers and plates are unique and beautiful just as they were. Frankly, the china itself is gorgeous. 2 sets are Noritake China, a company that has produced exquisite, milky, bone-white porcelain since 1904. I remember the sound that breaking gravy boat made as if it was yesterday. It happened so quickly, I think I exclaimed, "Ah!" as the dish slipped from my wet hands. It hit the floor on its platinum edge with a clink. That sound became a crash, and it shattered into what my 9-year-old self thought was a million zillion pieces. My mother yelled from the family room, "Are you okay? What happened? What are the three of you doing in my kitchen?" Her hurried footsteps came down the carpeted hallway towards the kitchen, and by then I was yelling, "No, no, I didn't do it, no." In an instant, the warm afterglow of Thanksgiving dinner that was caught in a bubble burst. And I knew it was my fault. You see, Loretta's cherished Noritake china, that bone white china, was bold and graceful, much like her. Gray roses swept across each piece. They looked as though they were carefully drawn by hand. Those deep gray roses on a sea of milky white porcelain were framed with a wide, sparkly ribbon of platinum. As a child, I didn't think. I knew Mom's Rosamore china was priceless. Something in my 9-year-old bones told me that the plates were irreplaceable. As an adult, I know I was wrong. They're not irreplaceable. What's irreplaceable, what's actually unforgettable, are the memories held in each and every cup, saucer, and plate. Our possessions are simply that. They are possessions. But what matters is the memories that they carry, the stories they whisper to us, the stories of those we have loved and lost, those things we hold on to, photographs, ticket stubs, a favorite scarf, a leather jacket, an autographed baseball given to an 11-year-old. And 3 sets of china. Those things, they all tell a story. My memories of eating love-filled meals are held in those china plates. Plates that were only used at Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. Plates that were hand-washed in a sink. You remember your mom would put a towel in the bottom of it so you didn't chip or chink anything? Plates that had to be protected. Plates that are still a concrete symbol of my father and my grandfather's service in the U.S. Army overseas. You see, when you could send your bride or wife a set of handcrafted Noritake china, you had arrived in middle classdom. That china was a symbol. That was something that the men joyfully participated, a ritual they participated in, because it meant they could afford to send special things home. On the day in question, the seismic day, my brothers and I washed, rinsed, and dried the treasured Noritake china. When we finished, there were neat, orderly piles of plates, of sauces, of cups, of bowls on the counter. And that's when my dad stepped in. It was his job to carefully place those piles of china into the china cabinet, wooden, glass doors, an oasis of protection for Rosamore. There, those plates waited as if they were the Queen's crown jewels, those that are kept under armed guard in a place called the Jewel House in the Tower of London. My mother's china sat safely on shelves behind glass doors, waiting for the next major life event in the Thomas household. That china was not for everyday consumption. All of that china, all 3 sets, my mom's and my grandmother's, was carefully wrapped in paper and bubble wrap and in boxes and never used for 12 full years, not even for a special event. Between the time I left to go to seminary and the time I arrived back home in August, it sat waiting. Rosamore stayed wrapped. I'm still afraid to pull that china out and actually put it into practice, but affection, my grandmother's pattern, did not. While I'm still protective of that delicate china, I use my best china. I'm no longer afraid I might break it. When I moved in, I unpacked it and I unwrapped that set, and now affection is in my kitchen cabinet. In fact, affection is here. I ate eggs off this plate this morning. As I ate, I thought about my grandmother, a quiet, tall, rail-thin, dignified woman. She stood about 5'11", a soldier's wife, the mother of 5 children, all girls. One was my mother. I thought about Bertheda and how she instilled a love of family and ritual in those girls by serving them meals on these plates, by feeding her family. I thought about Bertheda because this china is simple, is dignified. It has a swirl of flowers and leaves and hearts and a small platinum edge. I also thought about the girl who grew up and became my mother, an independent, precise woman, perhaps like many women with ideas that were a little bit ahead of her time. A woman with high expectations of her children, a woman who sparkled. She too fed her family special meals off porcelain plates, but those plates, that pattern, Rosamore, were different. They had a wide band of platinum. They were sparkly, like she was. They made a statement. They held a story. Stories of the dead and the living are held by our possessions. I want you to think about the memories, the stories that bubble up when you look at certain things. I want you to pay attention to the stories and the memories, and then I want you to share them with someone else. For you see, it is only in the telling and the retelling of stories, it's only in the actual using of china for scrambled eggs that we bring our loved ones back to life. In closing, I want to offer you song lyrics, and I'll read them, not sing them. This is from a song called Breaths. It is based on a poem that was written by Birago Diop. In 1980, Issei Maria Barnwell of Sweet Honey in the Rock added music to it. The lyrics go like this: those who have died have never left. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the rustling trees, they are in the groaning woods, they are in the crying grass, they are in the moaning rocks. The dead are not under the earth. They are in the woman's breast, they are in the wailing child, they are with us in our homes, they are with us in this crowd. Because the dead have a pact with the living. The dead are not under the earth.
My grandmother's china is also in a wooden cabinet with glass doors. Though I discovered several years ago, it can go right in the dishwasher just fine. My grandmother's china is stoneware, so it's all right, not porcelain. Over the years, my mother has added to the collection for me, looking for pieces in secondhand stores and antique shops, sending them wrapped in bubble wrap, where they join the others. I don't remember anymore which my grandmother received at her wedding and which has been added since then. Like a family, they mix together to become one. As I thought about our theme of holding history through November, objects were one of the first things that came to mind for me. The way the things in my home tell the stories of the people who gave them to me, the places I got them. Over the past year, I've been privileged to have conversations with a number of folks from Goodwin House and Green Spring and other retirement communities. They share something in common. All of these folks have downsized. Sometimes after 40 years, 50 years in the same house. They have sorted through their objects, deciding which need to come with them and which to bless and let go. In one of those conversations, someone shared something with me that stuck with me, so much so that I wrote it on a Post-it note months ago and stuck it where I'd see it when the time was right. He said, "Every object you have has either an intention or a memory." Either an intention or a memory. Either that object is there to be put to use, whether every day like your vegetable parer, or at some future moment when you might need it. Or that object holds a memory for you. Your mother's china. Your grandfather's tie, the print you got at a far ago trip. I am privileged to be surrounded by objects in my home that do hold memories. Not all of us have that experience as we are displaced or move, not able to bring the objects with us. Those objects tell stories to me every day. My version, I think, of Rev CTC's good dishes is the glass ornaments on my Christmas tree. I am ruthless at Christmas time. The tree in the living room has only blown glass ornaments collected over many years, some stretching back to my mother's childhood. When my children make ornaments, which of course they do in various classes, I insist that they go on a tree in their room, a little tiny plastic one I purchased for that purpose because they aren't allowed on the living room tree. Popular. When my kids were toddlers, people would ask me, "How can you have glass ornaments on your Christmas tree? 2 toddlers, 2 cats, someone's gonna climb it. It's all going to come crashing down." The answer is easy. You just have to know one of them will break every year. One will slip out of fingers or not be hooked quite right, or someone, toddler or cat, will have indeed climbed the tree. You'll hear the clink, and you'll know that that was your last year with that particular ornament. I try with objects to keep the idea of holding tightly and losing lightly. And that's all right with objects. After all, it is the memories that are important, not the things themselves. The loss of people we love, of course, is never held lightly. It is indeed seismic. And yet it is just as much a part of life as those glass ornaments breaking year by year. The ornaments are precious to me, I think, in part because they are breakable. beautiful and fragile, and life, of course, is the same way. In our larger culture in the United States, we sometimes pretend that's not the case. We cling to life as though death does not wait around the corner for each of us, as though it's not just as much a thread of our living as birth is. And of course, in these last 18 months, some of us have held the special pain of being away from those as they entered the journey of death, unable to be with them. We know in some deep part of our humanity, we need a space to hold death, to acknowledge it, to remember its place in the cycle of life. This time of year with the fall leaves can help us to remember. And indeed, many cultures at this time celebrate and honor the presence of death and of ancestors. We just passed the celebration and honoring of Dia de los Muertos in Mexico and around the world. Other countries, particularly those with Catholic origins, have similar celebrations. Perhaps you grew up with All Saints' Day or All Souls' Day, or with Samhain, the Celtic festival of the thinning of the veil between this world and the world of the spirits. Or maybe it was the days of remembrance leading up to Diwali in your life. Sometimes I think the most important thing a religious congregation can do is to make a space to hold the loss we feel, to allow us to show up grieving, mourning, a place to share our stories and our memories. You have begun to bring those stories here today. May this, in this moment, be for you a space of welcome, a container for all that your heart holds, a place where we remember.
The words and music to this song is by Sarah McLachlan. I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. I'm so tired, but I can't sleep. Standing on the edge of something much too deep. It's funny how we feel so much, but we cannot say a word. We are screaming inside, and oh, we can't be heard. But I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. So afraid to love you, but more afraid to lose. Clinging to a past that doesn't let me choose. Where Once there was a darkness, a deep and endless night. You gave me everything you had. Oh, you gave me life, and I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by. Weep not for the memories. Weep not for the memories.
We're moving into the time of our service for you to light a candle, to bring into this space someone you remember. Before we do that, I want to invite you to bring that person more fully into your heart. If you're comfortable, close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take a breath. Perhaps with you today is someone you have lost in these pandemic times, someone you have been unable to mourn in person. Perhaps your heart is full of a long ago loss, ever present. Perhaps you have a constellation of losses. I invite you now to bring to mind someone you wish to remember. Paint the picture of them. Fill it in, their hair, their eyes, the sound of their laugh, the phrases they repeated over and over, even the ones that drove you a little batty. That too is who they were. When they are with you in this space, I invite you to focus your attention, to call to mind some quality of theirs that you most wish to honor. Their sense of humor or passion for justice, their righteousness, their love. Imagine, if you will, reaching out and grabbing hold of it and bringing it into your own self, your own life. Friends, in the moments that follow, as we listen to music and watch photographs sent in of loved ones remembered, you are invited to light a candle here or at the back, to come up one by one and light for the loss you hold and for the love and how it lives on in your life. Friends, I am so grateful to be surrounded by your loves, by your loss, by the stories and the histories your lives hold. May this place be big enough to hold them all, and to hold too the joys and beginnings, the births and celebrations. Friends, I have to share with you joys and sorrows today, the stories of this congregation. I want to lift up a few moments in UUCA's community life as they were shared with us, so we might share with you. We honor today a moment in Bruce Ryder's life. On November 7th, 2 years ago today, Bruce was admitted to Virginia Hospital Center for the first of what were to be several brushes with death over the months following. Bruce wanted to share his joy and gratitude for the miracle of medical science and for the constancy of his UUCA family for pulling him through to another shot at life. At the same time, Bruce joined, we know by many of you, shared his sorrow for the LGBTQ youth of Virginia, whose lives were often part of political debate in these past months. May you find affirmation of your worth and dignity here. And finally, a celebration. Brenda King, who in June was married to Richard Shelton in a beach wedding that included all of Brenda's family from London. Brenda, who particularly noted that she is 75 and Richard is 85, named this moment as the best celebration of love and joy that she and Richard had ever experienced in their lives. It is amazing to me sometimes that life can be so beautiful and terrible all at once, that it can hold such loss and such joy. Will you join me in a time of prayer as we hold all? Spirit of life, God of many names and beyond our naming, our hearts come full of loss and full too of joy and wonder. We come knowing that each time our heart breaks, space is made. That each time a hand reaches out, our hearts grow. May we know that we are not alone. Not alone through the celebration, nor alone through the loss. That the Spirit of life and love connects us to each other in this community and far beyond our walls. May we remember and remind each other. And may our hearts keep growing. Amen.
Each Sunday, we take an offering. It is a ritual that many of you are deeply familiar with. 70% of that offering is directed towards a specific cause or organization. 30% is used to care for this congregation, our home place. Taking an offering is a concrete example of UUCA's desire to assist organizations, ideas, and groups that live our values out loud. When we give generously, we are planting seeds that, when nourished, can grow and change the world. When you give from the heart, it's an expression of thankfulness for all that we have. $20, $10, $5, $1, a pocket full of change, anything you give, a check placed in an envelope, go online, donate that way, Cash App, Venmo. All of those offerings help us change the world. We are able to manifest our dreams of justice, equality, and freedom from oppression for all people, every nickel, dime, penny, and quarter at a time. Please give as generously as possible today. I thank you in advance for the support. Will the ushers please take an offering? In November, we are sharing the plate with Equality UUCA, a group that works to organize our congregational advocacy, education, and support for the LGBTQ community. Equality Virginia is a statewide nonpartisan advocacy organization that educates and lobbies in the state legislature on behalf of LGBTQ citizens. PFLAG DC supports families as they navigate their way through what is often an unfamiliar and unexpected landscape. These two organizations are supported by UUCA Equality. Will the offering please come forward? Your generosity goes a long way to help folks in our community within these walls and outside of them. Please join me in the words to bless our offering. They're in your order of service. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. Let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others. Amen.
Through the month of November, we have an opportunity to share with special gratitude and hear from members of our UUCA community about what this place means to them. And today we are joined on video by Jeff Mayer, a member of UUCA.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Mayer. In 2016, my dad died suddenly, leaving everyone in my family heartbroken. None of us was more grief-stricken than my mother, who'd been married to my father for almost 60 years. One of the first things I did after my dad died was to contact the Reverend Linda Peebles, who was one of the UUCA ministers at the time. You see, my parents had been members of the church since the 1950s. So it was clear to my siblings and to me that we should do the memorial service at the church. Reverend Linda did a wonderful, soulful job with the service, and it was a great comfort to my family. After that, it occurred to me that going to church would be a good way for my mother to stay connected to a community she'd been a part of for all of my life. So I started taking my mom to church almost every Sunday. And after a while, something interesting happened. I realized that UUCA really felt like home to me as well. I had grown up in this church, but I had not attended often as an adult. So I started exploring covenant groups and other church groups and activities, and pretty soon decided to join the church myself. Since that time, I've become a member of Aliances and been part of 2 UUCA delegations to Guatemala, and have found various other ways to serve in one humble capacity or another. I met my soulmate at UUCA, and Emily and I were honored to be married this past spring by Reverend Amanda. My mom is no longer with us, but UUCA is still an important part of my life. It's been a source of comfort during times of grief and sadness, and it's also been a place to share joy during happier times. I'm grateful to have UUCA as my spiritual home and community. And sadness. And it's also been a place to share joy during happier times. I'm grateful to have UUCA as my spiritual home and community. And sadness. And it's also been a place to share joy during happier times.
May we find here and may we build here that place that holds both sadness and joy. A place big enough for all the brokenness and loss and all the beauty of life. May it be so. Amen.